supposed to. Stuff it back in and take all of our excess. Take it down just like so. Right? And we would do the same for this brake, which is already stowed, so we're just going to leave it. When we gather everything, we want to stack everything properly. So when we run the lines, we can find if there's any twists or anything wrong with the canopy that we brought inside. So looking at the lines, I'm able to easily verify that there is no problems, no twists. I'm going to give the canopy a nice good shape, and I'll step out of the canopy, putting it on my dominant shoulder and making sure all the slack is taken out of the lines. I'm right-handed, so it will sit on my right shoulder. What I do need to do is I need to turn this canopy 90 degrees clockwise to get it exposed to my open, free left side. And I need to count out the nose cells. The first nose cell is going to start with a label that is on the panel closest to your body. And we'll just count all these nose cells, stacking them nice and even. 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. When we're packing out in the wind, it obviously poses a little bit more of a challenge, but we can still do it. So once I got everything, I want to let the canopy down a little bit and expose it. So you can see the canopy is opening up nicely. All the lines are starting to line up with themselves. And now I can place this between my legs. I want to come up on the canopy and I want to distinguish left from the right side. It's going to be really easy if I just use the grommets placed on the slider. I can verify that this is the left side. I can clearly see it's on the left. So I know that that is the left part of the canopy. And just like that, I can also see that this is the right side. So we can make the nice split right in the middle here. Once I got that split, I can take the slider and put it up on my shoulder. Okay? Come up on the canopy as much as possible. We'd like to see the top portion of the canopy up at about our chest level. Once I'm here, I need to find the brakes. So we'll start with the left side first. I need to find this thing called the white tape. This white tape borders the stabilizer, and eventually will lead you to the first brake line. We'll follow the tail edge to find all 4 brake lines. At that point, we can pull the brake lines up, as you can see in here, to locate all the D lines, which are now arcing nice and easily. So we'll find 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 D lines, and now I can get the brakes out of the way. If you want to come in here so you can see a little bit better, while I'm holding here, I can verify that my D lines and my C lines are around, and I'm going to flake in between, making sure that the lines stay at the middle of the canopy and the fabric is mitigated out to the outside. Once I brought that down, I can gather those next 5 C lines, put them all together, and flake in between the 5 B lines that are on the left side. Grab those guys, all 5 of them, flake in between the 5 A lines, and look, I'm already done between all A and D lines. So the last thing for this side is to bring the tail back, find that white tape. The first attachment point is the first brake contact, and we're going to fold the fabric to the outside, again keeping the lines towards the center. So the left side of this canopy is now finished. We're going to do the exact same thing to the right. Starting with the brakes, I'm going to look for the white tape. White tape leads me to first brake point. I'll just keep following the edge. Just like before, find all the 5 D lines, let go of the brakes. You can clearly see the 5 C lines are next in succession. Make the flake, grab the next 5, make the flake, grab the next 5, make the flake. Simple as that. We'll bring the brakes back around, find that white tape again, and go back to that brake point. Mitigate the fabric to the outside. And we're pretty much done. All I got to do now is get this slider in, quarter this thing out, and clear the stabilizers. In order to do that, I can take just one line group from the rear riser, separate it, quarter out the slider. Do the same on the other side, quarter it out, quarter the tail portion, release the nose from under my legs, and finish by quartering the front portion of the slider. Lastly, before tying everything up, bringing the tail up and folding it, I want to make sure that the stabilizers are clear. So again, by following this white tape, I can ensure that everything is cleared out properly. Everything is cleared. So we can wrap this tail now. If we follow the very last flake, we have the droop. That brings us right to the center. So we can wrap this thing around easily by pulling this to one side, pinching it with the left hand, allowing our right hand to come to the top, and then pinch the top here, ensuring that these 2 seams are lined up properly. We'll go all the way down to the second row of stitching, to the double row. And will give us 3 to 4 tight rolls. When we're finished with the rolls, I'm going to pull down to lock it nicely and reposition my hand. At this point, we can gently set the parachute down, letting our hand exit through the top of the parachute. So if everything went right, we should have a nice little wedge. Looks like a delicious little piece of pie, right? So we can clear the pilot chute and get ready to deflate this thing. Get on my knees, I'm going to just start deflating. I want my arms to come up to about shoulder width. At this point, I can transition onto my pelvis and slowly roll onto the canopy. No rush here, guys. Just trying to get the air out nice and slow without disturbing anything. Once I've got it flat enough, I'll work on one side, pick up the whole wing, fold it under cleanly. Do the same to the other. Pick up the whole thing, fold it under cleanly. My last check to make sure the parachute is skinny enough is put my hand down by my waist and verify that the parachute is indeed thin. I can then come up and see, yes, it's plenty thin enough. So I'm going to put my knees at the halfway point and start the first hold. Take my right hand at top, left hand behind, and just lean it up onto myself. Now I can use that left hand as a set to pull the first fold over. Once all the fabric is nice and tight, I can use my other hand and set the fold straight down. Now we can put this thing in the bag. The fun part. So I want to start on the side that has my free leg. It's going to be the left side. I'm going to pull the grommets down and dress the left side of the parachute completely and place my left leg next to it. This is going to work as a wall. So now I can push this side without anything exploding out from the left side. So I can grab it all nice and neat and slowly but surely pulling the bag over the parachute, not pushing the parachute into the bag. So once that is there on that first fold, I'm not going to spend too much time prettifying this, making it all beautiful. I want to get to the next fold, and then after I get the first stow, we can focus on any fixing that we need to do. So I'm going to set the second S fold and gently slide it into the center of the D-bag. At this point, I can take the center rubber band and go to the first locking stow. With Dacron lines, we will be doing a single wrap around the locking stows, just like so, and we'll be doing a double wrap on all the remaining non-locking stows. So we just go back and forth, maintaining tension on the lines the entire way. Just keep going and going and going. Once we get to the non-locking stow portion, like I said, we're going to double wrap. So after forming the bite, I'm going to take this rubber band like a piece of string, wrap it around, trapping my thumb, grab the bite and remove. We just keep going. Yeehaw. And we're just going to keep moving. I'm going to keep doing these line stows until I have more than 18 inches of line remaining, but less than 2 D-bags width of line. So coming to this last bite, it looked like I have about maybe 20, 22 inches of line remaining. That is perfect. So I pick the bag up, setting it down on its lines, ensuring that no parachute material is stuck between the grommet and the bridle itself. And I can take the bridle, pilot chute, move it off to the right side, because you guys are all right-handed, correct?
Yep.
That makes it a little easier. Keep the bag folding, grab these lines, help set them in their place on our holders here. And we can set the risers underneath the riser cover. Close. I want to make sure that the toggle end is on the inside portion of the parachute, and the flat end is on the flat side of the parachute here. So again, toggles will go down, toggles will face the reserve, and we can close. At this point, we're going to open up the container. Take the leg straps out at 45 degrees, open all the flaps, and set your pull-up everything's open. I can grab the parachute now, lifting it straight up, putting all the lines into the bottom corners, establishing a center coil. I can now put the parachute in at about a 45-degree angle into the container. And once it's there at about that 45 degrees, I can take my hand, hold up top, pull on the pull-up cord, and then maneuver the parachute in so it rests at 90 degrees into the bag. We just want to make sure that the grommet here is right close to the flap here, right, nice and near the corner. Once everything's looking good there, I take the bridle back over itself so I have a nice piece to go over so the loop itself won't potentially get wedged underneath the grommet. That's why I put the loop back here. Or sorry, the bridle itself back there. So for this javelin rig, closing order is bottom flap first, top flap second. Once we get these two flaps, we want to make sure that we have the closing loop appearing through the grommet. I can place a knee right on top, go over to the next flap, and easily be able to do it because my knee is holding everything down. Once I get tension, I can now pull, make sure I get the loop through enough, put my other knee on it. See, I can let go, nothing's happening. I can place the Velcro on the Velcro if I need to. I can just fold that right under there so it sits still. And go up through the last flap. Now every rig has its own closing sequence, so some rigs will be closed differently than this. Now I'm going to take the bridle. You guys can see the pin is drooping there, right? I want that pin, the natural way that it goes, to go through the closing loop. So I can just push it through, and I can verify that everything is nice and flat. I don't have any twists with the connection from the bridle to the pin. At that point, I can now remove the pull-up cord by sliding it under the pin, pulling it out. Get the pin underneath the bridle in a nice smiley face orientation, and then we can tuck the bridle under the first flap and close the rest of the flap. Last part, trace the bridle, take out any twists that you might find. We're going to hold the pilot chute up so the handle is horizontal, nice and flat.
This is your 20-minute call. Honor 18, 20 minutes. I do have
Pilot chute up, mesh side up.
on this nose.
We're going to fold it into a taco, then into thirds. Doesn't need to be perfect. I'm going to try and make it as pretty as possible. And then I can fold back in half on itself. The distance from the handle end to the buttstop here is the distance I want to have from the pocket to the pilot chute. So all I gotta do is move it up closer, and we can S-fold this until we get to tension. And then once we're at tension, right here, I know that we've used all the bridle that's necessary, and we're not gonna have any extra. Fold over, roll the remaining pilot chute back, stack the bridle so I have the handle first, pilot chute second, bridle third. Turn the rig sideways, and I can now jab the pilot chute in. I like to put the pilot chute in a little bit further than necessary and pull out as needed, so it's set exactly where you want it. Now you can see we have some bridle remaining, but it's sticking out a little bit. Maybe it's a little bit short. If that is the case, all I have to do is pull a little bit from the pilot chute side itself to make the nice tuck into its cover, and continue tucking the rest until everything is hidden. And that's how you pack a parachute.
Yeah. Awesome.